Barack Obama has weighed in on the upcoming election by urging Joe Biden to step down. Well, I guess, Barack, you ain't black. That's what Joe said. Obama has been added to a growing list of heavy hitters pleading with Joe to drop out. Schumer, Schiff, Pelosi. But Joe's not persuaded and says he's still waiting to hear from Dianne Feinstein. No, we don't mean to speak ill of the dead, and we don't mean Dianne Feinstein. As you know, President Biden has COVID. Doctors are advising social distancing, and that means he should stay 6 feet away from people. They've already got the perfect place. Joy Reid compared Biden recovering from COVID to Trump recovering from getting shot. That's wrong. We have no reason to believe Joe will ever recover from COVID. Wrestler Hulk Hogan spoke at tonight's convention. Secret Service removed all the folding chairs. Wrestling joke. But it's quite the contrast at the RNC. What wrestler shows up? Hulk Hogan. Meanwhile, at the DNC, they booked The Undertaker. Officials say 20 minutes elapsed from when Secret Service first spotted the gunman and shots were fired. 10 more minutes and their pizza would have been free. Tiger Woods said he didn't sleep at all the night he heard about the Trump assassination attempt. He wasn't upset. He was just banging a waitress. Earlier tonight, Donald Trump officially accepted the Republican nomination for president. It was a great speech. He said if he and J.D. Vance are elected, they're going to fundamentally reduce the size of Chris Christie. And finally, according to a new poll, President Biden trails nearly every other Democrat, even Kamala Harris. And that includes Jeffrey Epstein. He's a Democrat. All right. The left is experiencing a historic meltdown like nothing we've seen since Pelosi got her face too close to a Yankee candle. Because the news keeps getting worse as Joe keeps getting worse. And all three prongs of leftist coercion, politicians, bureaucrats, and media, they're crumbling like the bundt cake Joy Behar keeps under her pillow. Don't you get the feeling that all the little creatures scurrying for cover now, the Joys and the Joes and the Mikas, are starting to realize that their time is up, that things are really changing for good? It does feel like morning in America, as Joe doesn't look like he'll make it to lunch. But it's hard to have any sympathy. You handed the keys of your party to a designated driver, and it turns out he was way more effed up than his occupants. It was like the guy was swerving all over the road for 4 years, cursing out the other drivers, bouncing off guardrails, and you only just noticed he was drooling as the car went over the cliff. Now, as if dementia wasn't bad enough, the White House announced yesterday Joe has COVID. Let me guess, he's going to stay in his basement now, right? He's already spent more time in basements than water heaters and John Wayne Gacy. Meanwhile, Obama seems to be seeing the light as well. And unlike Joe, he's not walking toward it. This after Chuck Schumer met with Joe and told him it's time to go. Adam Schiff has also flipped on Joe. Biden now has less support than my campaign to legalize kidnapping. Then there's the Secret Service head, Kimberly Cheadle, who decided that a nice little retreat in Aspen was more important than the RNC. Now, the RNC is a designated national security event. It happens every 4 years. But I get it. Guarding Republicans can't compete with a week of aromatherapy, herbal hot tubs, and deep tissue massage in the Rockies. I doubt she planned on going skiing. Last I heard, she was terrified of slopes. But she ended up canceling the trip and coming to the RNC after the shooting. Good for her. But ask yourself this, is there a chance in hell she would have planned a trip during the DNC? But perhaps the luckiest schmuck is DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, because suddenly nobody's talking about the border. It's a great strategy. If you really screwed up one thing, deflect by screwing up another. It's like when you forgot your wife's anniversary and then she finds you in bed with her sister. At least you're spending more time with her family. That was Hunter's excuse. But the funnest meltdown of all, the media. I haven't seen this much public misery since The View broadcast live from a nude beach. Here's Joy Reid and Jen Psaki blathering that if Trump could be cheered for surviving a gunshot, Biden should be just as celebrated for surviving COVID.
This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
No, it's not. You moronic bucket of batshit. You know, the only difference between Joy and a mental patient is that the mental patient's getting help. Sorry, the only time you'll see Joe with a bandage on his ear, it's because he tried to answer the hairdryer again. Then there's Michael Steele, formerly RNC chair, now DNC stooge, and now apparently an expert in bullet wounds.
If he was shot by a high-caliber bullet, there should probably be very little ear there. Was it caused by a bullet, as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet.
So this jackass is now a ballistics expert and would have us believe that Trump, the Secret Service, the Pennsylvania State Police, the Butler PD, and the shooter were all part of a plot to get Trump that fist bump photo. That's about as believable as me telling runaways that I can find them modeling work. And he's not the only dope spewing this nonsense. Here's Joy again.
We still don't know for sure whether Donald Trump was hit by a bullet, whether he was hit by glass fragments, whether he was hit by shrapnel. We don't have those details. We actually have no details from his physician, even though this man is still a Secret Service protected, and presidential candidate.
Sorry, Joy, you're the last person in the world who should accuse someone of having something fake on their head. You know, if Trump is such a lunatic and his followers so unhinged, how could they pull off the most complicated conspiracy of all time and keep it secret? Is it possible, Joy and Mr. Steele, that it's not Trump who's the lunatic? You know, sometimes you can tell the power of a leader simply by the damage he does to his critics' brains. Nobody in our lifetimes has caused such mental disruption among the mentally frail. If the whole system had not been rigged against us and against Trump by the political, bureaucratic, and media elites, then why does that whole system suddenly seem so upset now? I just hope it doesn't result in some nut job going crazy and shooting someone. Oh, wait, that already happened. And how weird that it's not the right that's freaking out, but these idiots. For them, this week has been like a funeral, just not the one the Democrats wanted.